Well, thanks for the introduction. If you don't know who Overhaul is, think third-party monitoring of freight. We do this at scale. We have control centers around the world, do it for some of the biggest companies in the world, but also service small to mid-sized companies. Hopefully we can get this to work. So I'm not going to talk about Overhaul today. What I'm going to do is kind of share some intel and insight to what we're fighting. This is well known. This is well documented. There's academic reports on this if you want to take a deep dive into it yourself. It's pretty easy to find online. But first, I'm going to play a little video. So what we're talking about is a group known as the Khalistan crime ring. Anybody here heard of them before? Do you know their origins, know their roots? They're a terrorist organization in India, formally declared by the government. They're responsible for an airplane bombing in the 80s, an Air India flight over the Atlantic. Here are some of the recent headlines. This group first came into the US in the 90s as in scale. A lot of them created into Canada and the US, through asylum channels, and really built a drug and narcotics trafficking empire. They still do that today. They've, moved into cargo theft. Why? Because it's so profitable, in my opinion, and they're very prolific. I see thefts from these guys every day, every single day. There's been a lot of arrests, but that doesn't even close to solve the problem. If you talk to the law enforcement agencies in Toronto, they say this group is so integrated into society, they're never going to arrest their way out of it. They're business owners, they're community leaders, but they also have ties to this organized crime ring. Earlier this year, a social media influencer started posting anti-Khalistan things on the internet. She was murdered a few days later. What's happening is individuals are promised work in the US, promised American, salary, driving truck. They're actually taking an IOU out from this criminal group. They get them into the US, trafficked into the US, they get them a job, they get them an ID. There are very sophisticated ways to get them legit driver's licenses, and they start driving truck. When the criminal group says you owe us $30,000, they say either pay us $30,000 or go steal some freight, or your family is not going to be safe back home. That's the reality of what we're dealing with. And it's a hard thing to battle. When you have somebody threatening somebody who could inflict harm on your family, you steal freight. Our best guess right now is close to 15,000 people are in the US driving truck under this model. And there's only been, hundreds of arrests. And so that's the reality of it. A little bit more background on this group. They date back to the 1930s. They were a separatist group in India, kind of battling the British Empire. It goes back that far. Then they started, doing organized crime things, trafficking drugs, murders, killings, bombings. In the 90s, there was kind of a truce between the Indian government and this group. And part of the truce was the Indian government would turn a blind eye if they claimed asylum in different parts of the world. And a lot of these leaders, a lot of these people moved around the world into the US, into Canada, into other countries, and they, part of them still are part of that criminal network. There's members of this group that own massive trucking companies in California, members of this group that own massive trucking companies in Canada. And they're funneling their profits into terrorism. They're funneling their profits into political objectives. If you read the news in Canada, there's actually a leader of this ring who was assassinated. Everybody suspects the Indian government sent over an assassin to kill him. So this is the level of crime, the level of sophistication, the level of organization, we're all battling. And this is one of the major players in the US cargo theft arena. There's a lot of copycats, there's other groups, this is not the only one. I've been in this cargo theft business for nearly 25 years. Back when I first started, it was the Cubans. If you go back that far, they were prolific in stealing cargo. The Cubans have kind of tapered off a bit. They're into other crime now, Medicaid fraud and other things like that. But this is what we're battling, this type of organization, this type of individuals. So it's not an easy thing to fight. And I don't know if we'll ever get out of this without, in an effective way. I really don't. It's going to be, the industry taking hold of their operations, layers of security, prevention, vetting. But there's no silver bullet in answer to this question. But it will take both the public and private sector to solve this problem or help mitigate this problem, which we're nowhere clear to, and we're close to having that in place. These are just some of the entities tied to these organizations. We maintain a list. This is just where their addresses are located. If you dug into this, you see a trucking company with an address, and they also have 15 other trucking companies tied to that address. And one gets flagged by the industry, they'll fire up another one and just keep on rolling. But very, very prolific. And, California, the Midwest, they're booming. Ohio, they're booming right now too, if you pay attention to those things. But this is the level of sophistication, and the amount of people involved in this operation is tens of thousands or more. So that's, if I can go back here. Maybe. I'm not sure how to go back. Can I play? No, it's not working. Can you play that up there? There you go. This is just another one. This was talked about earlier on. It's just BOL alterations. The advent of Adobe Editor a handful of years ago has changed our world. Very quickly and easily, an individual can alter a document. It looks professional. And in certain situations, it takes weeks for this to be found out. These individuals target big warehouse operations, like massive operations like a Walmart or as Amazon or a Target. They know there's hundreds of trucks coming in and hundreds of trucks coming out every day. And to scrutinize each BOL is almost impossible. There are some solutions out there around this, but it is a very prolific way for individuals to steal. And it's not just this criminal ring doing it. A lot of criminal rings have copied this MO. It's very, very hard to catch, especially in massive, high volume logistics operations. So that's all I have for the presentation. I think we're going to move into a panel, I'm not sure of what's next, but.
I can confirm.
Yeah, all right.
Into a panel. Y'all give it up again for Rob Green.